Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. I'm Frugal Granny, my name's Ali. I'm an almost 65-year-old semi-retiree making the most of what I've got between now and getting my state pension in July 2027. Today's Tuesday and I'm hoping to air this video on Wednesday as a little bit of a bonus. Today I should have gone for a job interview, which is a bit of a weird thing to say for a semi-retiree, but before I left my job in higher education, I did put my name down on a list to be an exam invigilator, and I had an email last week asking me if I would come for an interview. Well, you know, I had a long think about it over the last week, and yesterday I emailed to let them know that I wasn't going to be there this morning. You know what? I'm not ready to go back there yet. I'm not ready to get out of my nice warm bed at 8 o'clock in the morning and fight my way through the commuter traffic. Yeah, I said no, which for me is quite a big thing. But for you it means I'm here pottering in my kitchen and able to make you a little bit more content, some catch-up content. If you're new, you're very welcome, and if you are a returning viewer, it's lovely to see you, and I hope you've got time for a bonus video this week. I did say that I would demonstrate stuffed marrow. I grew some courgettes this summer and one of them escaped detection, as they have a tendency to do, and grew into, well, not quite a marrow, because courgettes these days are bred to be eaten small, but if you do let them get bigger by accident or intention, they can be used as marrows, but they are not technically quite the same as a proper vegetable marrow. So I have this imposter marrow overgrown courgette, and I also have some leftover chili, so I thought I would stuff the marrow with the chili and top it with some grated cheese, and that would make a nice meal full of leftovers. If you hear noises in the background, it will be one of three things: my pugs eating and or snoring, both, well, hopefully not at the same time, that would be pretty dangerous. It's also a very windy day here today, so if you hear any rattling or vibrating, it's the wind rattling windows or various other bits and pieces. And also I've got the fan oven on to put the stuffed marrow in when it's ready. Right, so let's just get to it, shall we? This is the overgrown marrow, well, overgrown courgette. Let me get a big knife. This courgette's not going to be much good beyond there, so I think we'll take that bit off and use it for something else. So, and then just take the other end off. So effectively you can see here, that's the inside of the marrow, the pith where the seeds are, and that's the bit we want to get rid of. So let me think how many bits we're going to get out of this. I think we could get 5. Let me do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. 4 marrow rings. That one's not very straight, but never mind. And what you need to do is just lay them down and then take another knife, probably a small paring knife, and then just cut round the pith. Can you see what I'm doing? Just cut round the pith. And then poke it out like that. That can go in the compost heap. And then if you need to trim it up a bit, just do that. Yep, that one's fine. My middle son bought something in this when he was here the other week, and I've saved it. I can't believe how much buying just a tray can cost, but anyway, I'm going to use it for these stuffed marrows. So I'm just going to put the stuffed marrow in there. Let's do another one. Yeah, so I didn't go to those invigilator interviews this morning, and you know what? The reason I mentioned that was because I had the sudden realisation that I don't actually need to prove anything to anybody anymore when it comes to work. And that's a really liberating feeling. I mean, yes, we could all probably do with the odd couple of £100 of extra income, but I don't need the hassle, and I don't actually need to prove anything to anyone. I mean, there was a point in time when, yes, I did feel I needed to prove things to other people, professionally speaking, but I don't feel that anymore. And it's an incredibly liberating feeling. Yep, so no exam invigilator job for me this time round, though I must admit I did ask them to keep me on the list for the time after. The marrows, this one's extra. I wonder if I can squash it in there. Oh yes, I can. Let's just put that one in there. Going back to marrows rather than part-time zero contract hour jobs, I've not skinned this because it's a courgette, and technically speaking you can eat the courgette skin. If this was a real vegetable marrow, like a green bush marrow, the ones with sort of stripes and ridges, I would peel that, and I would do that by cutting the, actually I'll do it on this one just so you can see. Use a bigger knife, and I would just cut the skin off it like that, because the skin of a genuine vegetable marrow can be quite tough, and I don't think you'd really want to eat it, and you don't want to be fiddling about with your knife and fork trying to take that off when all you want to do is eat your meal. Okay, so if I was using a real vegetable marrow, not an overgrown courgette, I would take the skin off like that. Watch your fingers, watch your fingers. Right, that can go in there. These bits can all go in my worm bin. Let me just put them in the collecting box. Right, the next thing you need to do is stuff the marrow, and usually what I would do is stuff it with a thick bolognese type sauce. So in effect, chili is a bolognese sauce, but just with added beans and sweet corn and peppers. So I just sort of stuff the filling into the marrow. I don't know if we can have enough chili actually. It doesn't matter because I can still bake the other marrows. I could put some rice in it, couldn't I? Yeah, I've got some cold rice from the other day, so I'm just going to eke out this chili with a little bit of rice. I might have to start again here, but never mind. If we've got a little bit more, I feel a bit more confident with that now. Oh gosh, can you hear the wind? It's so breezy out there. Let me just get this way. So here I've got some of that grated cheese that I bought on offer the other week. And I'm just going to put a little bit on top of there, on top of each of the marrows. That's it. Coriander goes with chili, so just a little bit of coriander maybe. And I'm going to cover that loosely with some foil. It's going to go in the oven at 180 degrees for about 20 minutes. When I test it, I will be making sure that my knife can go right into the marrow. Then I know it's cooked. Then I will remove the foil and just brown the cheese off, and it will be ready to eat. So the marrow's in the oven now. I'm going to show you how to make some Yorkshire Parkin, which is traditional to eat on Bonfire Night, or Guy Fawkes Night, which is the 5th of November in the UK. Guy Fawkes was a member of a group who wanted to blow up Parliament back in the day. I think it was one of the King Charles the something. They were a group of friends from North Yorkshire, And funnily enough, my mother's family is related to Kit Wright, who was one of the conspirators. Kit Wright had several children, and the daughter of one of his sons, it was definitely his granddaughter, married into the group of families that my mother originated from in Nidderdale in North Yorkshire. There were at least 4 or 5 families with the same surname and in that area at the time. And the grandson of Kit Wright's granddaughter married one of my 12th great aunt. So although I'm not exactly blood related to somebody who was involved in the gunpowder plot, Kit Wright, one of the plotters, is actually closely linked to my family. I actually drove up to Nidderdale and I found my family's ancestral home, and it has the date of 1660 in the stone lintel above the farmhouse door. It was amazing just to stand there and to feel the sense of history. It has been absolutely fascinating digging into my family's history. And although people where I live think I sound like a posh southerner, my family has roots that go back into Yorkshire, way back into at least the 1600s, and other people's research has shown that even as far back as 1320, my mother's family can be traced back in North Yorkshire. So yeah, I am from Yorkshire, even though I don't sound like it, just born in exile. But anyway, that's a long story, a roundabout way of introducing that we're going to make Yorkshire Parkin now, which is something my mum used to make. It's an oatmeal-based gingerbread that uses black treacle. Right, I hope you can see that. That's the recipe I'm going to follow. It's in my 1979-81 copy of Mrs. Beaton's Household Management. So Westmoreland Parkin, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's Yorkshire Parkin. Right, it says grease and lime 2 20 centimetre square tins. I do not have 2 20 centimetre square tins, so I have lined one. This one is another one that my son left, a tin that is 20 by 10, and I will just have to find something else to do with any spare mixture if it's too high for the tin. Right, heat the fat and treacle in a saucepan. So I need 200 grams of butter and 450 grams of black treacle. Black treacle, conveniently in 450 gram tins. Actually, this one's partially used, so what I'm going to do is go and get an unused one from my store cupboard upstairs, and then I can just use the whole tin and I won't have to weigh it out. 200 grams of butter. Actually, it might probably be the whole of that. Yeah, the whole of that. That's quite a lot. Bigger pan is needed. Right, that can all go in there. And now, tricky sticky job of getting 450 grams of black treacle into the pan. That's what black treacle looks like. Let me just scrape the lid. Oh dear, this is such a sticky job. Okay, we'll just leave that one like that for now. And then I'm just going to get my little spatula. One way to get the dregs out of syrup tins is actually to stand them in hot water. Now, I'm not putting the water in the treacle, I'm putting the treacle in the water. You cannot put this in the microwave to warm it up, so you've got to do it the old-fashioned way by just warming the metal tin in some water. Oh, it's already started to melt the treacle. Metal's a very good conductor. Oh, that's fantastic. There you are, see what I mean? It comes out very easily if it's warm. Sorry, I hope you can see that. My hand's not in the way. Just scrape the sides down. Right, this is going to get melted over the stove now. I'll turn you around in a minute. While this is melting, you know, I was sat in bed this morning. I mean, one of the things I've done this morning, now I've got my new laptop, is sit with my big spreadsheet, and I've reformatted it all so it's all in the right colour again now. And I've also set up all the tabs so I've got everything ready going forward till December for my budgeting, and right the way to the end of the tax year for my income. So all I have to do now is just fill in the cells when the time comes. I also just need to check that I've put my expenses receipts somewhere safe. But yeah, I was sitting in bed this morning when I should have been going to these invigilator interviews, thinking about, you know, when I thought, you know, I don't have to prove anything to anyone, and the sort of realisation of what that means for me now that I'm retired. You know, I'm not trying to climb a ladder anymore or impress people. I started thinking about other things that were fantastic about retiring, or why I even retired when I did. It was not just because I was suffering from change fatigue and chronic anxiety, but I think I've mentioned it before that I've got a health issue that I'm on a watch and wait list for, and it really does get to a stage, to be honest, when you realise you don't really want to spend another day at the office. I mean, some people would say, well, you're spending 21 of your hours, nearly 22 hours a week at a supermarket, what's the difference? Well, the difference for me is with the supermarket is I go there, I do my job, and I do a very good job, I think. I'm not saying I never make mistakes, but I do my best, which is what I do in all aspects of my life, I'd like to think. But there isn't the same sort of pressure to be like networking or improving yourself or keeping your CV up to date or looking out for the next promotion opportunity. It really is an incredible weight off your shoulders to know that you're very happy with what you've got and that you don't have to prove anything to anyone other than that you've just done a good job in the role to which you've been appointed. And it's very sad, but I've actually had somebody quite dear to me, I wouldn't say close, but dear to me, has died this week. It wasn't unexpected, but it's always sooner than you think. And they never got to retire. And again, you just think how sad that is, really. And I'm very glad that I've taken the time while I've got it. And in that respect, you know, it was being friends with that colleague while they were ill, and also nursing my terminally ill dog, and you know, helping her over the Rainbow Bridge that Sunday afternoon. That was very, very sad, and you know, realising that there are more important things in life, quite frankly. There really are, than going to the office and trying to beat the system. There really, really are. So anyway, more reasons why I left. Anxiety, chronic fatigue, a change fatigue, realising there's more to life than the office, and that I now don't have to prove anything to anybody, not even YouTube. Right, that's melted now. So there we've got the melted treacle and butter. Dry ingredients. Mix together the dry ingredients, excluding the bicarbs. 450 grams of oatmeal coming up. This is actually going to be quite a lot of Parkin. Maybe I should have done a half recipe. Never mind, too late now. We can freeze it. Right, put that in the bowl. 200 grams of plain flour. Come on, 0, 0, 0, that's it. Cooking is very approximate with scales like this. A teaspoonful of salt. And 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. It really doesn't, really doesn't seem like enough. I'm going to go for a heaped teaspoon. I like ginger. I hope I don't live to regret that. Okay, and 200 grams of demerara sugar. We do not have demerara sugar, so I'm just going to have to use plain white sugar. I'm sure it's not going to be too different. It'll lose a little bit of flavour, but then there's quite a lot of flavour in the black treacle. It'll be fine. There's no way around that. We just have to do 200 grams of plain sugar. Mix it all together. Two teaspoons of baking powder. Right, I'm getting that muddled up with the bicarb. 2 of baking powder. 1, 2. Warm up 100 mils of milk. There's 100 mils of milk. Got it. Dissolve the teaspoon of bicarb. Here's the bicarb. Mix that in. Pour it into the dry ingredients. Well, that's not what you do with Scandinavian gingerbread. That's obviously what you do with Parkin. Beat together the butter and the treacle. Pour that in. Mix it up. Just going to get a bigger spoon. That's it. Get right to the bottom. Get all the bits off the bottom. And pour it into a tin. Bake in a warm oven for an hour and a quarter. This Parkin is much darker than the Parkin you can buy in the shops. It's because I have used black treacle as per the recipe. A lot of the Parkin in the shops obviously uses a lighter syrup because it's a lot lighter than this. And when it says use fine oatmeal, I've just used ordinary porridge oats. I don't know if you can get finely ground oatmeal, but my mum used porridge oats. Good enough for her, good enough for me. Let's get this into a slow oven. Okay, I've put the Parkin into a slow oven for an hour and a quarter. And there was one other thing that I wanted to make before we sort of move on further into late autumn, which I guess includes Thanksgiving recipes. I mean, we don't really do Thanksgiving in the UK, but I still like to make pumpkin pie. And then obviously there'll be a few Christmas recipes I want to show you in the run up to Christmas, and maybe a look at some of the Christmas treats that we make, including I need to make mince pies with the homemade mincemeat. So as October is coming to an end really, I'd quite like to make some apple cake. I've been meaning to do that for a few weeks, but I've rather got hijacked what with one thing and another, and I've not even bottled my apples yet. I've ended up having to throw a handful of apples away because they've gone bad. but I'm hoping over the next week, because I've got no overtime, I can actually catch up. And if I can get 6 to 12 bottles of apples put away, I shall be very happy. But we're not bottling apples today. I want to make the apple cake that I make every year. Now, it's a bit tricky because none of my kids eat this apple cake, and in the past what I've done, I've baked it in a massive roasting tray and I've taken it to work and cut it up and left it in the office kitchenette, and it's become, well, it was at the time legendary, but you know what it's like. You're out of the door 5 minutes and people don't remember your name, well, technically. So there won't be any roasting tray full this time. I mean, look, this is getting really old now. I've had this bit of paper since 84, so it's a long time. I've had this very old bit of paper, but I think it was in a Woman and Home magazine or something, and it's called Dutch apple cake, though I tend to call it Norwegian apple cake because to me both of them are very similar. I multiplied it by 4. Yeah, 4. So today, this is going to be the story of my life now, is making everything smaller, because it's just going to be me and my freezer. There's only a limit to how much I can eat, even if I put things in a freezer. So what I'm going to do today, for the first time in literally decades, is make the exact amount of this recipe rather than a multiple. I seem to have spent most of my life catering for hordes, literally hordes. And it's been quite an adjustment over the last decade, trying not just to downsize my house and my possessions, but to downsize my cooking and my food mentality. And now I have reached the point of having to just think about myself. I really am going to have to nail it on the head once and for all. The first thing to do is line the tin with foil. So shiny side down. Is that going to fit? Yeah, just. Tear a bit that's long enough to go over the sides and just mould it over. Take that off carefully and then fit it in there. One portion or one amount, and this is going to be really difficult for me. I don't think I've ever cooked this as one amount. 6 ounces of self-raising flour, level teaspoon of baking powder, which is the same as 5 mils, a pinch of salt, 3 ounces of caster sugar. Mix that all together. This is just what you would do if you were making muffins, it's just the quantities are different. For the wet mix, 1 egg, 6 tablespoons of milk. I really wish they wouldn't do this. 1 tablespoon of milk is 15, 2 tablespoons is 30, so 6 tablespoons is 90. Let me just get the milk. And 2 tablespoons of corn oil. I'm going to do that by tablespoon. This isn't corn oil, it's either sunflower or just random vegetable. But 1, 2. The great thing about making a thinner apple cake is you get more topping. You get more topping per area, more topping per depth of sponge. This is a terribly thin apple cake. So I'm just going to quarter the apples. I think it's nice to use a brightly coloured skinned apple. Let's just core these. You don't need to take the skins off, which is why I gave them a wipe. And then just cut them into slices. And the idea is to arrange them on the top of the cake. Right, the other thing I need now is the cinnamon sugar and some butter. Oops, I've cheated a little bit and just floated the frozen butter in a saucepan until I've got as much as I think I want. I can always melt a little bit more if needs be, so I just need now to pour that. I think that's tons. Can go in there. And then sprinkle generously with the cinnamon sugar. Make sure you get into the edges and the corners. Oh, the smell is wonderful. Just love the smell of cinnamon and sugar. Okay, do I need a bit more? Can you ever have too much cinnamon? I don't know. Maybe. Actually, you can have too much of anything, really, even too much of a good thing. So there you go. There's the uncooked apple cake. I'm not going to tip it up because the butter will run. And that needs to go in a 200-degree oven for 35 minutes. So I'm hoping that the marrow is now cooked and I can just turn the oven up 10 degrees, 20 degrees and put that in instead. Let's just see. Let's have a quick look at this marrow. It's the only trouble with using foil trays is that they bend when you try and pick them up. Yeah, it's nearly cooked. Yeah, that one's cooked. Right, so I'm just going to put that back in the oven uncovered now to crisp up the cheese, and I will put the apple cake on the top shelf. They can all go in together and I'll keep that flat. Okay. The marrow is almost cooked. I've taken the foil off, it's just crisping up and the last little crunchy bit in the marrow will be softening up. I've put that on the bottom of the oven, which I've turned up to 200. And then on the top of the oven, I've put the apple cake, which will probably be in there for about 20 minutes or so until I think it's ready. It will rise and the top will go nice and golden brown. The parkin is in the bottom oven on 160 degrees Celsius, and that needs to be in there for an hour and a quarter. So while that's cooking, I'm going to do what every good cook does, and that's wash up and put everything away. Well, everything's out of the oven now. At the back you can see the apple cake. It's a little bit thinner than it should be because the area of the tin was half as large as it should have been. But in some ways that's really quite nice because you get more apple to your sponge, and it's nice eaten with a bit of whipped cream or just on its own. And then here at the front, on the front right, is the stuffed marrow, which I stuffed with chilli and topped with cheese. That's nice and soft now. Yeah, knife goes in and comes out very cleanly. Sorry, and then front left is the Yorkshire Parkin. It's still cooling off. I really should put it on a cooling tray. I won't be able to cut that until it's cool, because otherwise it's just going to collapse. So I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of a bonus potter around in the kitchen with. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time. Hey dogs, are you good dogs? Are you? You can't have any of this. It's not for you. No, it's not. Not at all. No. You such good girls.